Well, yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. I wanted to welcome you to our continuing Tech Thursday series. This is Raj Dulari. I'm the sales director for XenTegra Canada, and I wanted to welcome you to downtown Toronto. Here in we're broadcasting live. Actually, if I could, I'm just going to tell my colleague Moyne. Moyne and Mike, can you mute yourself?
Yeah, 1 second.
There we are. Sorry, we had some background noise there, Moyne, but what we are doing is just doing a brief introduction. We're broadcasting live from downtown Toronto from the Page One Cafe. So this is a live event and a live stream event, and we are going to be presenting strategies for Citrix migrations. And this discussion is going to be run by Mohan Khan, who's actually doing it from Mike Berman's laptop. So he appears as Mike B, but it's actually Mohan Khan who's going to be presenting. And he's going to take us through about 35 minutes of best practices and approaches for planning and executing a successful Citrix cloud migration. And what I will say is there's probably no better person to do this than Mohan himself. Over the last 2 years, Mohan, I think you've done, is it fair to say 3 to 4 dozen Citrix cloud migrations?
More than that, Raj. Lost the count now.
Lost the count. Okay, well, so there is someone who's done this more than 4 dozen times, and so that's very exciting. And what we're certainly hoping is that, at very least, what you take away from this is some learnings that you might be able to apply. Once Mohan is finished, he's going to turn it over to Mike Berman. That's Mike B. And Mike is going to provide us a brief presentation on iGel. And the reason we have iGel here is that when it comes down to virtualized environments, it is probably one of the smartest technologies to use when you are using a virtualized environment. iGel is an excellent way to provide reliable, predictable performance on your devices. And furthermore, and this is what we really like, with many of our customers who have been on a regular 3 to 5 year refresh cycle for their desktops, they're able to stretch that from 3 to 5 years to 5 to 8 years by using iGel. So what does that mean? That could mean several $1 million per year in savings because you can stretch more life out of your endpoints. So I'll leave it to Mike to talk about that, and he's going to follow Mohan. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mohan Khan. Mohan, welcome, and over to you with your discussion about Citrix migration.
You have few slides, Raj, just to go through, if you can.
Right. Well, if you want to take me through them, Mohan, sorry, I missed that, and you're absolutely right. Folks, one of the things, I think it's got to be because I'm in person, honestly, and I think I'm getting thrown off of it, so I apologize. But one of the things I should do, and things I must do, is you can actually see the name of our company in the back. We're XenTegra. We're XenTegra Canada. And really, just in terms of who we are and what we are, we're all about end user computing. And we were founded in 2012, focusing in on filling the gap that we'd noticed in environments that were using Citrix solutions and other end user computing solutions, where they were looking for additional technical expertise and really just for someone to fill the gap in terms of making sure that their environment was predictable, reliable, and gave them the performance they expected. Now, how do we do that? Well, we do that in a number of ways. We start off by really working with the idea that an informed customer is our best customer. And to that end, we hold events like this. We hold webinars and workshops, not only in Canada, but across North America. We also provide many assessments. And when I say many assessments, we provide assessments for customers' environments at no charge. And so what we will do is we will come in and spend about a day with you to collect information about your Citrix environment, your VMware environment, and provide you a prioritized report of things you can do to make your environment more stable and things that perhaps you may not be able to do, you might need help. But the whole intention is to help you better understand what's going on in your environment so you can get the performance you expect and deliver the end user experience that all customers need. Beyond that, beyond podcasts, we also, and this is important to note, we also very often give away conference passes, including to Citrix Summit, and then we've also got one for VMware. So if you are interested in any of these vendors' conferences, let us know here at this event, or let your sales rep know, and they will get you either into a draw that will get you a free ticket, or there might even be ways that we can get you down there so you can skip the entrance fee, and it'll be on XenTegra. So Moen, can you advance the slide? This goes back to our founding philosophy, and this is Andy Whiteside, who really said that, look, our deal, our objective is to build a community and then create solutions that serve the community. So I think he says it best with those words. And Moen, next slide. And now over to you.
Thank you so much, guys. And for the folks here in the room as well. So this is the first time that we are trying to do a hybrid webinar. We are running this live from a Page One Cafe in Toronto downtown. We have quite a few audience here in the room as well. So guys, if you have any question, feel free to interrupt and ask question. We are sharing it on the large screen as well. So if you feel like I'm moving too fast or moving too slow, just let me know. So one thing that we always get confused and customer always ask is, we are not ready. We are not ready for cloud. So a lot of time when customer says that we are not ready for the cloud, we don't want to go in cloud. And this is the thought process that everywhere it is, that we are not ready for cloud yet. But then when we get into the concept of what cloud, when we talk about Citrix Cloud, what it means, what it gets you, it is not only about embracing cloud as in just lifting and shifting everything in cloud, but what Citrix gives you is the power of making it more a la carte, picking and choosing what you want to move into cloud, what not. The first obvious choice that becomes for people who are looking to move to cloud is moving your backplane. That's where your controller, your SQL server, your licensing, those are the key things that once you set it up, and most of the places I have seen on number of deployment that I have done, once you set it up, you are not touching your controllers for next 2 years, 3 years, and that becomes a challenge. When you have to upgrade, the only hurdle for you upgrading is, I don't know if I should be upgrading my controller first, or should I be upgrading my storefront, my license server. So there is a set process on doing those things. And that, because you're not doing it on day in and day out, it becomes really uncomfortable for you to upgrade to a latest and greatest version. Coming to Citrix and trying to follow the same footprint that you can't hear? Okay, I'll try to go as loud as I can. Turning into Citrix when Citrix trying to follow Microsoft footprint, where they're trying to keep up with Windows 10 rollout, with Windows operating system rollout, they have to test their software on every version that comes out. That's the reason why there is a frequent release that comes out from Citrix 7.15, 16, 17, 18, they all came and they released in a matter of 6 months. Every 6 months, they're coming with a new version. What Citrix Cloud gives you is, Citrix said, okay, fine, we will take your backplane and we will manage it for you. So you give us your backplane, controller, SQL Server, license, only these components. We will manage it for you. All you have to do is manage your workload. So when we talk about Citrix Cloud, your workload is still in your control on premises with you. You can choose to move it into Azure or AWS or Google. It's up to you where you want to run it, but that is just an option for you. It is not mandatory. The only thing that is fixed, that goes into cloud, is the backplane. One of the benefit of this is you're not paying for the cloud subscription, Citrix is paying for it. Your licensing covers all those costs. You get a hybrid rights. You can run it on cloud. You can run it on-prem. Depending on wherever you want, you can run it. Citrix licensing has factored in all those things. When it comes to application servers, that's something you can decide. I want to run it on-prem because I have better control. My backends are all in-house, so I don't want to run it in Azure or anywhere else. So that's where the flexibility comes. The way Citrix Cloud and backend connects is using Cloud Connector, two pieces of hardware that sits in the middle of all these things. They connect, they take a backseat. Now you're one-to-one. Other transition to cloud gives you, we briefly talked about the hybrid rights. So that sooner or later, subscription-based model is everyone going through. Citrix is going through the same process. They are going to implement subscription-based. They announced back in October of 2020 that they are not renewing perpetual license anymore. So slowly everything is going to be on cloud. Citrix managed control plane. We discussed very high level on Citrix is managing it. Citrix is managing it. You are controlling you're only controlling the application workload. Rest everything can be run and done or managed by Citrix. One of the biggest things that again customers they ask is if I am putting everything into cloud, what happens if cloud goes down or internet goes down? So those are the two things that we get very often. We want to make sure that we are in 24/7 environment. We are in 24/7 environment. It's a business critical. We want to make sure that our environment is up to date all the time. So that is one thing that people get concerned with, is making sure that either my internet or my cloud is up. So for Citrix, they are promising 5 nines, 99.9999, to keep their cloud up to date. That means they get around 8 or 16 hours of downtime in a year. Along with that comes your internet. Fine, Citrix is saying 5 nines, they will keep their cloud up to date. But what happens if my internet goes down? To address that, Citrix has introduced service continuity. Service continuity is a feature that is part of Citrix Cloud that enables your connection leasing. So when your users they connect, they get a connection assigned to it, and during that time, if internet goes down, their connection is already remembered and held by Citrix Cloud. So even if your internet goes down, they continue to work. Getting into user experience. User experience always, just like on premises, it is optimized. Citrix Cloud gives you the same benefit. It is optimized for flexibility on any device, any network. And today you guys will see when we will try to run a complete Citrix environment with the flexibility of either legacy laptop. So I will right after me, I'll have my colleague Michael Berman. He will show you endpoint management on how we can control and manage endpoint devices. At one point, laptops had life of 3 years. Now with iGel, they are able to update the life of a machine to up to 5 to 7 or 8 years. It's up to you how long you want to use it. We take a legacy device and we convert that. And with that legacy conversion, you still get the same benefit running a Citrix flexibility on any device. So you can take a legacy old laptop, you can take thin client, you can take all-in-one, and all those things we are going to go over very soon here live, getting into the demo, and we will talk about how we manage. For our online folks, if you are interested to look at the conversion and get some hands-on, you cannot do hands-on, but we will try to stream it as well. So if you are interested, you can hang out and see Mike showing some magic on converting legacy devices into IGEL Linux OS. Unified communication, another thing that Citrix has optimized. Other concern that I get all the time, we are now with pandemic, we all are running Teams. We want to make sure WebEx is running. I want to make sure Zoom is working. There's a surge of traffic that goes on internet, and how does my application perform on giving a unified communication, making sure that they all are still beneficial no matter where they are working from. Your graphics acceleration, getting your plug and play technology, your multimedia performance, and your adaptive orchestration, all those features, they just like how you get it on-prem, you have all those same features and functionality in cloud. Best user experience for adaptive display. That's one thing that again comes especially in banking and in healthcare, when they talk about making sure they are using multi-monitor, making sure that desktop encoders have different type of content instead of selecting a single encoder adaptive display. Citrix gives you option to run multi encoders simultaneously. So your adaptive display analyzes and it segments the display to a level that that the parts based on the content, all those things are seamless, and it is more effective even if you are running it from the cloud. Another thing is browser content redirection. You are running it, giving you pros and cons of how you want to run your workload. Lot of places, they are still not comfortable running thin client, or they don't want to go to that cost saving measure. They want to run laptop. Now in that scenario, if you're already running a laptop, why do we not redirect some of the performance of be it browser, be it Adobe, be it Flash, all those things? Why not just redirect those on a local device? And that's what Citrix does. It has that intelligence built into it, and the policy driven, where we can go and define if I want to, if the user is coming in from a laptop or a physical device that has enough capacity, why not redirect some of the overload or things onto the endpoint devices?
Moin, sorry to interrupt, but I'm just wondering, did you want to just make sure you speak into the microphone so it gets broadcasted?
Sure.
There we go. That's
Better?
perfect.
Team optimization, again, one of the biggest thing that we were being gifted in this pandemic world was staying connected, and Teams was one of the obvious choice. How it was being made available through through your Office 365 subscription. So everyone who is looking to migrate or have already migrated to Office 365, they want to use Teams. Now running Teams on Citrix, again, I had in my past experience talking to many customers, they are looking to run Teams, but they are not happy because they feel that Citrix cannot work very well. Now, when I went and looked into their environment, they are still running 6.5. 6.5 being a legacy legacy environment, it was not optimized. It did not foresee that we are walking into or getting into a place to support this surge of bandwidth. And with Citrix, they came up with the optimization for Teams. And in a minute, I'll talk about how IGEL has joined hand with Citrix on making sure that their device is optimized at the same time. So Citrix uses SRTP, which is a secure signaling protocol that transmits from a replay attacks by enabling the receiver to maintain an index of already received RTP packets. So now, instead of you sending out the packet every time you are having this communication, it tries to optimize and it tries to prioritize. So those are the benefits of latest version of Citrix. Or if you talk about Citrix Cloud, that's the part that Citrix has revamped by adding this SRTP technology into the latest version, which is running in cloud. And with Agile OS giving you option to offload a lot of those Teams communication onto their Linux devices. So this is getting some technical details on how the whole communication flow works, how your team communication coming to your VDAs, that is your Citrix application servers, and how it is load balancing and updating your web RTC connection onto your different client devices. Log-on optimization, that is one of the biggest pain that everyone has, is my users are complaining that log-on is slow when we turn it on. And I myself, when I started my career, I was working for a customer. We will come to office, we will start the computer, log in, and then go and get coffee. Come back after 30 minutes. My computer has logged in now. Now I'm ready to work. It would take 25 to 30 minutes, and I'm not kidding. It would take 25 to 30 minutes to log in. When we came to Citrix World, minute and a half was a big issue. People will complain that it is taking really long time. It's taking 2 minutes to log in. So I'm coming from a Novell days into Windows NT and into logging into your traditional laptop or desktop. It would take a minute or minute and a half. But when it came to Citrix, that was a huge complaint on how Citrix is so slow, and people are not able to log in. With Citrix Cloud, they introduced Workspace Environment Manager, which optimizes your session to 5 to 15 seconds. So giving you an optimum login where your users are not sitting there and waiting for a minute or 2 minutes to log in, but it has optimized, and if it is done right, it is optimized to 5 to 15 second log on. From security side, really a lot of work Citrix Cloud has done on revamping security. Exact same appliance that they gave you to run on-prem, ADC or NetScaler, it has the same NetScaler or ADC running into Azure, and it is offered as a service. So you get a gateway as a service. This gateway, again, it is a la carte. It is to your choice. You want to run VPX on-prem, or you want to run VPX or ADC in cloud, you can run it. Citrix will integrate with those, no issues. But when it comes to having an option, it gives you option to run the gateway services as well, which is no cost to you. You're not paying for this separate. It is already included in Citrix license, but it gives you gateway services, which was a challenge until a couple of years ago because of their functionality on what it can do. It was doing only ICG, and it was doing only domain that is defined there, which was cloud.com. Now they have integrated custom domain, and now you can even run full-blown gateway services without having to have Citrix NetScaler or ADC on-prem. This just talks about very high level the communication flow, your public IP address going to gateway, your network management, your firewall rules, all those things. Once it gets to gateway, how Citrix Cloud or gateway services is securing your access, and setting up a tunnel that goes through a Citrix Cloud connector that you are running on-prem, and giving access to your users on the application that they are running. So again, gateway services, it is running in cloud. It gives you the licensing fees is already included in your license cost, so you're not paying separate for ADC. It integrates with your existing domain, so you don't have to switch your URL. You can use your existing remote connectivity URL, whatever you have, using Citrix Gateway Services. It gives you service continuity option. So even if your internet goes down, your users are still connected, they're still working. And it does a secure control channel to your on-prem workload that is running either on-prem or into your Azure tenant. So now you have no network devices to manage, and all you're doing is focusing on business and managing your application workload. Getting into very high level on where gateway services coverage is. So this talks about which all POPs. So there are Azure POPs and there are AWS POPs in some places, like in California, in Ohio and Virginia, Frankfurt and London, Montreal. They are all running it on AWS. Rest everything is Azure, and that's where your traffic is being routed. So for Canadian customers, your workload is all getting routed through a POP that is running in Montreal. I will quickly skip through some of the benefits and features, which you guys already know, running it on-prem. Same, it gives your user to particular resources that you want to use. You can lock down on what level of what device they want to run, what authentication, and then endpoint analysis authentication policy that you can define, which is a conditional access on what device they can come on, what device they can access, what level of security they need to have in place before they can access workload. Getting into resource, giving you option for apps and desktop, your web file server, your file transfer, and then your authentication policy and your traffic policy, along with your access, which is your VPN, zero trust, clientless, or even a session policy that you can define. App protection policy, your anti-screen capture. So lot of time I get that we are concerned about security. We want to make sure that DLP is there, data loss prevention. But what happens if you are running something on screen? What stops you from taking a picture from the screen and using that? With Citrix Cloud, they give you anti-screen capture policy as well. So even if you take a photo of your screen, that gets blacked out, and you cannot see any confidential document if you try to take picture. Your anti-key logging and your anti-screen grabbing. All these features are part of Citrix Cloud. Using virtual apps and desktop for endpoints, it gives you also option to store classified information under app protection policy. So your users, where to draw the line, what access you want to give, and what you want to keep it classified. So these were the few steps on setting up your app policy, how it does. So if I go back, this is the classified information. I don't want people taking picture. But when they take picture, they get something like this, where the screen is all blacked out. Delegated administration and configuration logging. I'll just quickly fast forward into these things. You already know delegated login. Again, that functionality is here. You can pick and choose who you want to give what level of access, and even configuration logging, where you can track what changes has been done, when and how and by whom. The same console that gives you the studio console, where you can go and look into who has accessed, what they have accessed, and when they have accessed. all those information is tracked and stored in the configuration logging database. Session recording, another thing that especially in law firm and healthcare and finance, they are looking for. They want to make sure that they want to see who is doing what level of access they have, what they are doing. So you have option for doing a session recording, your problem resolution, and then your enhanced auditing. These functions are added to cloud as well. The other thing is Citrix Analytics that gives you more insight into endpoint device. So yes, from director level, you can go and see what your user experience is once they have grabbed access from their device onto your application servers. But with the analytics, it can go beyond. And if they are coming from a WAN, if they're coming from a remote location, they're coming from POP, no matter where they are coming from, you can go extra up a step forward. And especially in the era that we are living with, where we are living with state actors and all these ransomware attacks that's happening, it gives you a good insight into who has attempted, who has tried to come into your environment and access it. Another big thing, image management. How do if I'm putting my workload into cloud, what happens if I don't want to, if I want to get out of data center business and I don't want to continue running workload, from my on-prem, I want to move everything into Azure. Fine, if I go there, how do I manage my images? That's the problem cloud solves as well. It gives you option to capture your OS and application into a virtual image. You store that image into a virtual file, deliver this into a multiple target device, and then you can monitor. The same functionality that MCS that you guys are known for running it, you can run it in cloud as well. Machine creation services, or if you are looking for PVS as well, provisioning services, that was bare metal native booting of a device and giving you capabilities of either booting your laptop or desktop or server from a bare metal device. PVS had that option that they were giving. Those are added into cloud as well. Migration steps on some of the things. So you for master image, you create a master image. You use Citrix uses image portability services, and then once this image has been moved into IPS, now you can roll that image out to AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, your choice where you want to run it. The same image captured seamlessly and run into multi-cloud environment. Cost management, again, gives you auto scale capabilities. So if you have concurrent users, you have users, 100 users, and out of that, only 20 users are working more excited to work after hours. You don't have to keep all the workload up and running all the time. You can power off, or auto scale can take care of that. It can start shutting down workload that is not needed, and they can run or power on as your workload comes on. It will start powering on machines. So you're not doing it manually. This is something that Citrix can take care of it for you. User experience management, again with Citrix Director, gives you capabilities to monitor your end user experience. Citrix Monitor gives you in-depth analysis of a session that is running. And again, all these things are now web console running from the cloud. You are not deploying or managing any of these workloads from your on-prem. These are all run and managed centrally through Citrix. Performance analytics, again, analytics service that is running in Citrix Cloud, offered to you as a service, and that gives you insight on all your LAN and WAN traffic both. Some of the details that it captures: your user sessions and log on, your infrastructure, your endpoint, your network, and your application and delivery groups. Categorizes it into a scoring system in user experience score, 1 to 40 being poor, fair, and excellent. It will give you those details in this dashboard where you can go and proactively manage and monitor your user experience. Gives you option for a health check. And with that, I will pause and see if you have any question. Raj, do we have any question from?
One, we're good. Actually, there was just a few questions that just had to do with logistics, so you're good.
Okay. Anything from the room? Any question?
No, it doesn't appear so.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Well, first off, Moin, thank you. And thank you for taking through this. One of the things that I want to just remind everyone is we are recording the webinar, and we will distribute it, or distribute the link to all those who attended. So if you missed anything because you were, enjoying some pizza or something like that, that's completely understandable. And we will make sure that you get the recording. What we are going to do is, I'm just wondering, when should we record the iGel section? Or okay, very good. What we're doing right now, folks, is we're just changing gears, and we're now turning it over to Mike Berman from iGel, who's going to be providing an overview of the iGel technology and also providing a demo. So we're just going to give him a few minutes to get set up. For those of you who are leaving us, first off, thank you for attending. You are more than welcome to stay to attend the iGel portion, because I think you'll find it very useful. As we've often said, most successful environments that implement virtualization are using thin clients. And if they are using thin clients or thinking about using thin clients, they really need to seriously consider iGel, because iGel provides a measure of predictability to your application performance and to your user experience. And when you look at the results that we've seen with organizations that have been able to extend the life of their endpoints from an average of 3 to 5 years to 5 to 8 years, it makes a lot of financial sense to at least look at it. And what we've found is that actually what's very interesting is most very large organizations that have several thousand endpoints have seriously looked at iGel and invested in iGel, because they found that it's been a pretty good way to control costs and also to provide consistent end user experience without necessarily going out and buying a new endpoint. So again, I don't want to take your fire away, Mike, but over to you. Actually, don't bother with the microphone. I don't think it was working all that well.
All right, it doesn't work. Never mind. We'll just everybody can hear me. Yes, we're good.
Can everyone hear Mike?
Everybody can hear me in the room, right? And everybody can hear me on the webinar.
Okay.
All right. Hey, come closer. All right. So thank you for the introduction. For those of you on the phone that don't know me, my name is Mike Berman, and I am the senior sales engineer for iGel in Canada. I cover the entire country. Prior to joining iGel, I was the lead engineer at Citrix Canada. So for those of you that may recognize me or see the name and go, I may know you. That's where you know me from, is from Citrix. So I'm going to go quickly through a couple of slides. I hate slides, and I know Moen just PowerPointed you to death that you don't want to see even one more little slide. What we're going to do is I'm going to take you through a few slides just to show you a little bit more about iGel, what iGel is all about, et cetera, et cetera. Does this work? Yeah, it sort of works. Not really good, though. No, it's a waste. All right, so without further ado, what is iGel? Well, most of you or some of you may think that we were the new hair product by Apple. We're not. We're actually a thin operating system that can run on any x86 piece of hardware and turn it into a secure device able to connect to pretty much any cloud workspace that's out there. So we are a Linux-based operating system. And what differentiates us from the rest of the folks, we started off 31 years ago in the thin client business, and we made hardware, we made thin clients. But we quickly realized that what made us different and set us apart kind of from the other guys that play in this space was really our operating system and our management. So what we were able to do is to decouple that operating system off of our hardware and allow you to really put it onto any x86 piece of hardware and give your users the best user experience. Why? Because unlike the other guys, we don't write our own versions of Citrix Workspace app or the Horizon client, or for instance, a connection into AVD. We use the exact clients that come from those vendors. So the version of Citrix Workspace app that's included in the iGel operating system is the exact same piece of binary code that you can go to citrix.com, go to the receiver section or workspace section, go to downloads, find Linux 64, grab that 64-bit installer and just install it onto your Linux Ubuntu PC. That's the exact same piece of code that we use inside of ours. So that guarantees you the ability to give that user experience, because you're not getting an inferior rewrite like some of the other guys do, where they may be missing some of the new and advanced features. Because we take it directly from the vendor, when Citrix says this is available, this is available. And Moen alluded to it earlier with things like Teams offloading or any of the unified communications. Let's face it, when we tried doing this thing in 2020 and everything like that, it was horrendous. Saying it didn't work is probably the polite way of saying what was really going on in the environment, because it just really wasn't ready for that. So Citrix had to work hard, and VMware and all those guys, and they finally got around to getting optimization where it can have the heavy lifting being done on the edge and have the actual application being rendered in the data center. Well, in order to take advantage of that type of technology, you need the bits and bytes directly from the vendor. You can't sit there and go, you know, I think I can do it better and try and write it. Like, that's insane. Right? So when you look at what brings an iGel in there, and we'll look at it in a couple of minutes, because we use the native client directly from the vendor, we can guarantee that user experience. Why? Because it's written by them, not by us. From a manageability perspective, being able to manage hundreds of thousands of devices across the entire continent, maybe with 3 or 4 people sitting in one province. So not really having to manage and paying, we call them insurance, right? They don't really work for us, but we got to pay some people to be close to those locations in case Windows has a blue screen, right? Which is kind of a regular thing that would happen. We need somebody to be able to go and fix Windows. So what we are able to do here, because it doesn't blue screen and because it's read only and because there's no real way to corrupt the operating system, all of a sudden now we're not managing blue screens. We're actually doing what we're supposed to be doing in IT, which makes it so much more easy to manage. And then from a security point of view, you know, Mo went over a lot of stuff that can be happening inside and how Citrix secures it. But between you, me, and this wooden table here, if I run it inside of a virtual machine, I just circumvent all of that security that we're talking about. So how do I ensure that that never happens? Well, this allows you to boot at the root level, run the exact same version of Citrix Workspace app, but the print screen key doesn't work. It doesn't see a local hard drive. None of the ports on the device work unless you as the operator or administrator create explicit rules to allow. So unlike Windows, which is like a chain fence, right? It's completely wide open and we have to put in those blockers. And if we miss one, well, that's how the user penetrates. And that's why there was 250 something updates to Windows 10 last year. And the last time I checked my calendar, there's only 365 days. 250, 360. Those are a lot of updates, right? You're busy not doing your real job. You're busy maintaining Windows. So this allows you to get away from that on the edge. Of course, you still have to do it in the data center because as long as Windows exists, you still have to manage it. But what this allows you to do is to get away from managing the edge, because now I boot this device up, and because it's the complete opposite, in other words, deny by default, I don't have to create rules to turn off the USB ports or the cameras or this, that, or the other. That's the default. Unlike Windows, which everything is on as the default, on the iGel cell, everything is off. So don't worry about it. If you want to give access to the USB port, then you have to create a rule and say yes. Unlike Windows, where we have to hope we got everything, From an IGEL perspective, we've got everything. And the worst scenario is if somebody doesn't have access to something they should, you create an access rule and off they go. So this is what we consider ourselves to be today, is that ultimate endpoint to connect to anything virtual, Citrix, VMware, AVD, the cloud, SaaS-based applications, doesn't matter what it is, because in the reality of things, this is the world that we live in, right? This is no longer a world where I only do this, or I only do that, or I partially do this. This is potentially the world that we live in, where I can really be, excuse me, working from anywhere and still need to be able to connect to every single thing that may be out there. And I may have a variety of things. Today, we may be a Citrix shop, and then through M&A, we may acquire somebody that's doing Horizon. So how do I ensure that that same device is just as secure connecting it to Citrix as it is to Horizon? And as IT folks, I refer to this as having a good night's sleep, right? Being able to go home as the IT administrator and not worrying about what's happening while you're sleeping, right? Who's penetrating my network, who's busting in, right? Make sure that that doesn't happen. And why is it different? I alluded to it earlier, but here's the real differentiator between us and everybody else out there. These are just some of the IGEL ready clients that are baked into the IGEL operating system. These are not things that are written by somebody else, right? So this isn't like a Citrix client written by a few folks down in Germany that write our operating system. This is the same version that you can go to citrix.com, download the Linux 64-bit, take that, install it on your Ubuntu machine. You've got the exact same piece of code. Why is that important? Well, what if something goes wrong? All of us have probably tried to call in with a thin client problem only to hear, oh, yeah, we don't support that. You got to go talk to that vendor. And then you call that vendor and they kind of talk to you like you got a third head. They don't know what you mean. And it becomes really a back and forth. And at the end of the day, they don't fix it and you're angry. So by using the client directly, what you're able to do is if you're seeing a problem on the thin end of it, just simply try it on an Ubuntu machine, same code. If it doesn't work over here, this is not an IGEL related problem. This is a problem with the Linux client, then that us as a team can then go to Citrix, VM, or whoever it is and say, hey, here's a problem with the Linux client that you support. And yes, I'm able to reproduce it in Ubuntu. So they can't tell you, oh, that's a thin client problem. We don't do that. They can't not support you because it's their client on that operating system. So it really gives you an advantage. So I'm sure that you guys are itching and saying, well, okay, this is really cool stuff. How do I get it? You said you're not a thin client anymore. So what do I just think about this? And no, you don't. This is how you get the IGEL operating system. It is an OS. So that's the first thing. We are not firmware like the other things that are out there, the other guys. We are truly an operating system. So you can take your own x86 64-bit piece of hardware that's got at least 2 gigs of RAM, wipe the drive clean, repartition it in the XT3 and 4, lay down the IGEL OS and encrypt it end-to-end read-only. And now every time you press the power button on that Dell, that HP, that Lenovo, that whatever it was, it now boots up as an IGEL. That's your first option. Take your own devices, turn them into an IGEL. And this is where we see a lot of uptake, especially during the pandemic when it was very, very hard to get any form of hardware. So how do I get hardware? Well, most of the time, the hardware that's on the shelves was because Windows becomes a bigger pig every version that comes out there of what I need, right? I need terabytes, I need gigabytes, I need zigabytes. It just keeps getting astronomically bigger as it goes. Perfect example is I have a Lenovo laptop. It's 3 years old. It's got an i7, 64 gigs of RAM. This thing cost IGEL probably $3,500 when I got it. Yeah, we can't put Windows 11 on this. Okay, this is a 3-year-old machine that with taxes and everything was just south of $5,000. This machine will not upgrade to the latest and greatest. When I'm forced to run Windows 11, this becomes a throwaway device. That's insane. But that's the Microsoft way of doing things, is they phase out your hardware with the operating system. IGEL OS is based on Linux. They're not pigs. And you only need 2 gigs of RAM minimal to get this thing running. If I have more, obviously, I'll take advantage of it. If I have GPUs under the hood, I'll take advantage of it. Whatever's there, I'll take advantage because we're a real operating system. But the point is that you can take anything that's 64-bit, 2 gigs of RAM, and let's say it's a standard set of hardware under the hood and turn it into an IGEL device. Now that's running the same Citrix version that you want it to be. So that device that was thrown away pretty much of non-usable is now a fully usable device. So we had customers that took hardware that was on the shelf and repurposed it and got it into users' hands. And they had the same elegant experience because it was all running in the back end as somebody that had a brand new $2,000 laptop. Because let's face it, when I'm running Citrix, VMware, or anything like that, Windows adds zero value to the equation. It's just a landing strip to run Workspace app. It doesn't help you. Like, it's the operating system. It's running in the data center. So the idea is why do I have to have this fat, bloated piece of PC out here when everything I need is in the data center? Why not make this an optimized user experience device to connect to really what they need, which is in the data center? The second option is UD Pocket. It's a little bootable USB stick, secure boot. It can go into any x86 64-bit and temporarily boot you into an iGel device. So work from home, government employees, contractors, whatever it is, don't no longer need to provide them with hardware and worry about antivirus and firewalls and everything that may be running. They simply boot it with the UD Pocket. They're in iGel. When they're done, they pull it out. They boot back into their Windows 10, Windows 11. And then the last option is pre-installed. We work with all the tier 1 vendors other than the one that starts with a D. And that's because they think that hardware and software are competitors. So I'm still trying to find out. I'm searching Google, I'm searching everywhere. I can't find out where hardware and software is competition. Somewhere they've got this idea. So we fully run on their hardware. They just refuse to certify it because they think that's in direct competition to our software. So we will run on pretty much any of them. But if you look at the tier 1s that are out there, we pretty much have come on any of the tier 1s, the HPs, the Lenovos, the LGs, and even to the point that you can order some of these models directly from the factory and have iGel on it. So if you're here in the room, folks on the phone aren't, but after we're going to turn the camera over there, we have a couple of LG devices and all-in-one and thin clients and what have you. These come directly from LG with iGel on it. So you don't have to do anything. They open up the box, they got iGel on it, they join into your management environment, and in less than 2 or 3 minutes, this thing has a log on screen and your users are working out of the box. So that's what's happening right now because we are a true operating system. It's an ISO, so you can build whatever you want. We provide you with a client that you can convert anything you want. So the operating system is the operating system, and you can really put it onto anything that you want to do. Last bit is management, right? Now that we're talking about these devices, they're all out there. Obviously, you want to manage these things. They don't really do much if they just sit there. So iGel management using our universal management suite and what we call our iGel Cloud Gateway, which is an SSL VPN for iGel only. We're able to manage iGel devices on and off the corporate network. We're able to send kill pills out to wipe devices clean that may have been borrowed for an uncertain amount of time. We're able to shadow users while they're on the corporate network or maybe at home. So a user's having a problem. Now you may be thinking to yourself, yeah, but doesn't Citrix already let me do that? What if the user's having a problem connecting to Citrix? Can't really shadow them in Citrix till they're there. So this would allow you to have that full SSL shadowing connections down to the operating system level. So that user that's at home that's having a problem connecting in, you can actually help them rather than trying to say, you know, what's on your screen. As an IT guy for 40 odd years here, one thing that I know is the interpreted version of what's going on usually isn't really the problem, right? We're asking non-IT people to tell us what's going on. They're going to interpret it in their method. And then us as IT need to take that wealth of information and try and figure out what the heck's going on. Much easier if we could be there. In other words, connect it up and everything. Obviously, we can't come over and sit in their living room. So the next best thing is let's remote in and be able to help it. So being able to do everything from managing a device to updating a device to sending a kill pill down to the device, all from the comfort of, well, really anywhere that you can connect in to the management environment. So that's all that I had from slides. I'm going to jump now over and just show you a real quick demo of what iGel looks like connecting to Citrix. I know we're tight for time here. So we will quickly show you a demo and then I'll pass it back over to Raj. We'll see if there's any questions or anything in the chat. Again, on the first slide that you saw,
Yeah,
Muted. Unmute yourself.
I am unmuted. Can you? I need you to mute. Oh,
There we go. I was picking up background. I will just show you one time here. I just want, if any questions come up, folks, I just want to show you. That's my email address, berman@iGel.com. So if anything comes up and questions, because we did go quickly through the slides here, if you have any questions or anything regarding iGel as an operating system or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me or the XenTegra team to get a little bit more information on it. All right, so let's have a look at what iGel looks like real quickly, and then we'll open it up for questions. So what I've got here on the screen, which you can see, yes, just asking the folks over here on the, perfect, is an iGel device that I've configured. So I've pre-configured this, I've skinned it a little bit, right? I call this the warm and fuzzies, right? If you give a user something that scares them, they don't know what to do with it or whatever, they immediately have their back up, right? They don't want to learn, they don't want to touch. But if you can give them something new, but make it look like something they already know, they tend not to have the fear. They'll at least click around. So what I've done is I've skinned this box to look and feel like Windows. At the end, I'll roll everything back so you can see what iGel looks like kind of natively, nothing like this. But this shows you two things. One is the power of customization, what you can do here. And the other thing is obviously that warm and fuzzies. So I'm going to go here on my device. Ready? Let me get my mouse on my second screen. There it is. And you'll notice I'll log on. This is native Citrix Workspace app, so nothing iGel wrote here. This is just Citrix that's included. I logged on, and now I can see that I've got applications that are published from my Citrix environment. I can see that they're available on my start menu. They're available on my desktop. And if I go into any of them, let's just, I don't know, let's start Notepad for fun. You can see down in the corner, we've initiated our Citrix session. We're going to connect up. The first Citrix connection, obviously, is that 1 to 15 seconds to get that first application going because we're doing our login and what have you. But once that first application is started, we're able to go in and start our second application and our third application. Now, there's our first. So there's Notepad I've got running. And then from Notepad, I can simply go here. And if I start up something like WordPad, again, the first application took that 10 to 15 seconds. The second application is almost instantaneous. So again, this shouldn't really excite you because that's Citrix in the background, right? If any of you just got really excited about what you saw, that's awesome. But this is kind of what Citrix has done for 30 odd years. The difference here is that we use native Citrix, and like Windows, we integrate directly in the OS. So like on your Windows machine, you see the Citrix integrated applications within your start menu, as well as within your desktop. And then you can choose which one of these you actually want to have running. So you can choose that you want to have Workspace app running. You can choose what applications you want running. And then once you're all done, you just simply close them down like Windows. And then you can go over here and we can just, log ourselves off of Citrix. Now, I'm going to show you another example of what happens if you're doing more of an internal environment, right? So if you think about your Windows environments today, they're not just open machines that you can come over and just start clicking. You got to authenticate into AD to say at least who you are. And then once you've authenticated into AD, be able to pass those credentials into the client so that you can log on and stuff. Just like in Windows, right? You want that to be a full, elegant experience all the way through. So because, again, we're a native operating system, we're able to take that Workspace app and integrate it with the Kerberos tokens. So we can integrate. So because iGel is Linux, it's not Windows, we can't be a member of AD, right? Let's be clear. Active Directory is a Windowsy thing. There's middleware that you can put on non-Windows devices like Macs and Linux or whatever. So the objects show up, but it's not like you can manage them in AD. They just show up as objects. So we're able to integrate with LDAP and LDAP-S to authenticate you against Active Directory, tokenize those credentials, and then pass them off to a Windows and to the Citrix environment. So the user experience is more elegant, like logging on to a real PC, where I simply walk up to my box and I'm presented with something like this. I can log on. Hopefully I clicked in the right spot. I did. I log on with my credentials. They're going to get passed off to Workspace app. And you're going to see that I'm immediately going to start logging in to the environment without being prompted by the Citrix environment. And then once I'm authenticated in, I'll see all my applications and everything show up on the desktop and in the start menu. And if I go down in the start menu and I use this method, you'll notice that my AD name, that's the name I use, IGEL1, is displayed in here, your Active Directory name, because you are logged in to Citrix using AD. So this gives you more of an elegant experience of a desktop where I walk up, I log in with my credentials, I'm presented with my apps. I'm not going to bother for the sake of time starting it. You already saw one start. I could now double click on an app. It would do a single sign on all the way through, and it would feel like I'm on a Windows desktop. Excuse me. And then at the end of my shift, when it's time to go, I just simply log off of my device. Not only do I log off of my Citrix session, but I log all the way out of the operating system so that the next person that comes up has to log back in with some form of credentials. You can't just go and click and do. Last demo I'm going to show you is more for those VDI folks. And that's when I have to run VDI. So if I'm doing a virtual desktop, so I'm not doing virtual applications, I do VDI. The only purpose of the operating system is to give you enough OS to run the client, because nothing on that OS is what you need. Everything you need is in your VDI, which is over there. So having users clicking and passwording and thising and thating becomes a real inconvenience. Really what the user wants to do when they're doing any form of VDI is they just simply want to log into the machine and then be presented with their virtual desktop. No clicking, no in between, no nothing. So you'll notice here that when I come over here, I'm going to log in with the same AD credentials. There we go. IGEL1. You'll notice this time when I log in, I'm going to get authenticated. Those credentials are going to be passed off, but you'll notice in this situation, I don't present you with a taskbar, buttons, icons, nothing. It's just a blank screen, because this is not what you need to do. What you actually need to do is to connect into this environment, because this is my VDI. And this is where I have to do all of my work. So to give the user things that they need to remember to click and to pick and to this and to that, just to get to their Windows environment, becomes a challenge. Remember, us as IT folks, this stuff is just natural, right? You're showed it once and you're good for life. You don't need to remember it again. Somebody that works in government healthcare will be able to help you, but this is not what they do on a regular basis. So their brain doesn't remember all these steps that they need to do, especially if it's different from the way they do it at home. If it's the same as at home, I log in and things are just there, things are good. But if this is the way you do it normally, but with us, here's 17 different steps, none of which you've used anywhere else. And this is how you connect to our environment. What do you think the odds that person's ever going to use it or connect? I would say 0, right? Because that's aggravating. That's not work, right? So now they do their business, and then whenever they're done on their virtual machine, they simply click on their Windows environment here, and just like normal, they click on their name here, they click on sign out of Windows, and you'll notice here, not only do I log off of my VDI, my Citrix session, but I'm also going to log the box all the way out. Moen alluded to this earlier about the half-hour login. That's not unheard of, those crazy logins. That also is the log off. So think about this. I'm on a Windows PC that takes a half an hour to log in. I finally get logged and I connect to my VDI. It's 5 o'clock. I have a GO train to catch, time to get the hell out of town. So I go log off of my VDI. Could take 20, 30 minutes. In a real PC, that's not a problem. 20, 30 minutes later, the PC's logged off, you're good to go. You're not logging off the PC yet. You're still just logging off the virtual environment. So 20 or 30 minutes later, VDI finally logs you off. Now I'm left with a fully logged in Windows machine until Active Directory kicks in idle time or any of those timers that might log the PC out. Biggest security breach that's out there right now is that. People walk away, now the machines are open. I don't need to be elevated to hack your network. And anybody that's done any research knows that Windows is so penetratable, all I need to be is on the box. And then I can elevate that user to whatever I want with all kinds of hacks, right? That's why Windows is so bad. I can take a non-elevated user and elevate them, and now I'm a domain admin and you don't know it. And I can do whatever I want. So the idea is take that away from the user. Don't let them get to anything that they would need to get to, right? So from an IJO perspective, we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen. And again, this is all customizable. You don't want to do it, you don't have to. But if you noticed here, I closed down. When I said log off of Citrix, as it was logging off in the background, it logged me out of the IGEL. And in the background, it completed the Windows stuff. So this gave me a guaranteed secure environment that when I say log off and walk away, nobody can simply come over and double click on it. You cannot guarantee that on Windows because you can't execute that until the VDI is logged off. Now, of course, if you're an IT person, you can do anything, right? You know how to minimize it. You can hit Control-Alt-L and all that. But we're not talking about us. We're talking about the average user that can barely log in, right? It says username, who mine yours, right? It's the same person that during the exam time, excuse me, professor, it says name. Is it my name or your name you want here, right? Like these are the type of people we deal with, and we need to kind of have a little bit of extra TLC with them, right? Because IT is not their forte. So as much as we can automate and make their life easier and still, like I call it, allow us to go home and have a good night's sleep, I think it's a win-win for everybody. So the last thing I'm going to do, it's not even a demo. I just want to roll this guy back. And it's just to show you the amount of customization that I put into this iGel. And what I will tell you is it took me more time to find the graphic I liked than it actually takes to do it. Once you find the graphic you like, you upload it and you say, I want it to be the wallpaper, and you're done. Like it's literally that easy. It took me longer to go and find the graphic that I liked, the Windows one, the start menu and everything, than it actually took me to make it look like that. So you're going to see this thing roll back right now. It's going to come up with a gray screen. I'm going to show you a bunch of I'm just going to start the start menu. You're going to see a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't see there before. And that's just to emphasize the customization as well as the complete agility and lockdown you have. And then I'm going to pass it over to my friend Raj, who's going to wrap us up for the day. So yeah, this is an iGel.
And Mike, first off, no, that's great. One of the things I want to remind you folks, we're just getting to the tail end. So we want Mike to go through the demo. What I want to ask you guys is just to have your last order for drinks ready so we can get you around before you depart, because we want to see if we might be able to get some time with you once we wrap up. So Mike, back to you.
Awesome. So yeah, mine's going to be really, really quick. This is what an iGel kind of looks like out of the box. As you can say, it says iGel all over it. Looks like a thin client, right? It doesn't look pretty like it used to. It looks like something thin client. If I go down to the start menu here, you can see that there's a whole bunch of things under the config settings that weren't there when I did my other demo. So you can completely lock down and make the iGel operating system your own. Unlike other thin clients where it's kind of like, this is what it is, and you have some basic skinning that you can do. Because this is a true operating system, there's over 8,700 different configuration settings within the registry that you have access to make this your own. So on that, I'm going to say thank you very much for allowing me to present to you. And I'm going to pass this back over to Raj to wrap us up for the day.
Well, Mike, first off, thank you. And let me just see if I can snap back to video, see if that actually hurts or helps.
There you go.
I don't know. First off, folks, thank you for joining. It's and I would like to obviously thank our two presenters, Moin Khan, who presented strategies for Citrix migration, and then, of course, Mike Berman, who brought it home with a discussion of iGel. And really what we're hoping is that you have got some learnings from this event. What we will be doing is we will be sending links of the recording of this webinar after we finish. So if you want to refer back to it, please do. I also want to first off thank all of you for attending. It's great to have this opportunity to run through this technology with you, and we will be running more technical events as we go on. I want to remind you on June 23rd, we've got another Tech Thursday coming up, and it will be focusing on ServiceNow and or Tanium. And all of those are really important enabling technologies for IT management, obviously, and end user compute management as well. So with that, I want to say a thanks to everyone. We look forward to seeing you all again. And it would have been nice if everyone could have been here in person, because it is great to get out and have an event in person. And with that, I'll sign off. And thanks again for joining us.